importantly, I want to share with you about worry worshiping the problem. Okay. And I'm a firm believer that where attention goes, energy flows. So if I'm focused on the problem, am I going to see the solution? Okay. I've recently, and I was sharing this just today with a friend. I had a really one of those weird dreams, but which is quite metaphorical. And in it, I saw myself sitting in my 4x4 on a very slick dirt road. Now, slick as in icy slick, that kind of dirt that you just is almost mossy that you can slide across. It's been wet and hardened so many times and it's very clay-like. So your car literally skates across it. I saw myself in the car sliding backwards down the hill, and of course trying to pull on the handbrake, and nothing is happening. And in my dream, I could see myself analyzing the problem as I'm sliding down this hill in this car, which has absolutely no traction. And realizing that really what you need to do is put the car in 4x4 mode, in low, in drive, and start driving it forward. What was really amazing to me in this dream is the moment I got the car into drive and started rolling the car forward, actually driving the car. In the dream, suddenly I'm no longer on this slick, muddy hill sliding down backwards, but rather I'm on this really rocky terrain, which is still equally uphill. It's still very steep. But now there's traction. Now there's rocks and stones, and I have to avoid boulders as I'm driving off road up this mountain, totally off road. There is no road or path, but I'm driving on rocks, and I'm driving slowly and carefully and looking ahead to see what the next best way forward is. But I've got traction, and I'm moving steadily upward as I'm intentionally driving. So today I want to ask you, where are you focusing your attention? Okay. Am I living in the presence of the divine? And if I claim that I practice the presence of the divine in my life, how do I express it when I'm faced with problems or challenges? Am I sitting there focused on sliding down the hill, trying to pull on the handbrake, knowing fully well that the handbrake is doing nothing in this slide? Or am I focused on actually driving and being full of the presence? Do I allow myself to focus on the great creator and allow creativity and creative solutions to flow through me? When my mind is stayed on the divine, can I allow myself to then see the outcome? Okay. So there's trusting the process and there's trusting the outcome. The process is that I will drive up the hill. So all I have to do is put the car in drive and drive it. And the outcome is at some stage, at some moment, I will reach the top. I'll be able to get back on the road. I'll get back to safety. And the process is simply that the car is in drive. I'm driving the car. So the effects of worry, it's a stress state, and it's going to affect us on various levels. There's a physiological level where my organs are hit with stress and worry. And it impacts all of your organs in the way that it's going to impact your heart. It's going to impact your arteries, your blood vessels. Your heart is going to beat faster. There's going to be inflammation, and inflammation isn't just a hardening of the artery. It's unhealthy cholesterol levels. It's high blood sugar. It's heart and stroke. Even if we look at something like the Bible, we see anxiety weighs down the heart, or banish anxiety from your heart and cast off the troubles from your body, because it's going to impact our body. So there's other impacts of anxiety as well. When we're anxious and we're worrying, it's not just our heart that gets hit. There's also the hit that's going to happen in other parts of our body. We don't burn our energy in the same way. In fact, it gets stored as fat instead of turned to energy, and it stays in the body differently. It impacts our immune system, weakening it, okay? And our bodies then struggle against illness and disease, and we get more of the same. You get gut and digestive issues. That knot in your stomach can become an ulcer or indigestion. It might become reflux, okay? So you get eating disorders, you get bad habits and addictions like sugar, you get insomnia and disturbed sleep patterns. Of course, stress does more than all of that as well. It's going to hit your relationships, your job, your ability to make good decisions. And despite knowing all of this, we continue to worry and we focus on the problems rather than on the solutions. And what we're invited to do when we focus on the divine is trusting and surrendering. My best friend Vicky says that trust and surrender are the two faces of the same coin. You cannot surrender if you do not trust. And there is no trust if you're not surrendering. The problem with staying anxious and worried is that we're prolonging a state of suffering, a state of distraction. So the worrying creates both the physical as well as the emotional response, but it's about the future. It's not about the present moment. It's actually about what's happening in the future. It's a future outcome that we're worried about. And if you think about it, in this moment, right here, right now, is there a reason to be fearful? That we're fearing the future, but is there a reason to be fearful in this present moment? So you're trying to predict the future, you're catastrophizing or awfulizing that it's not going to turn out the way you want it. It's not going to live up to those expectations. But that's not happening right now. Worry is going to stem from fear. It's that fear of not being enough, not having enough talent, not having enough resources, not having the ability to face life challenges. And this anxiety creates within our mind less focus. So rather than concentrating on the present moment and what you have and the task at hand, you start making up stories, imagining, visualizing in the future what might happen. And unfortunately, this makes us irritable. We get thrown off balance. And then, of course, we look for distractions. That might be social media. That might be the news. It might be meaningless tasks and chores, rather than really getting into something that can help us change what's going on. We start chasing safety. And one of the things that worries me about chasing safety is, in order to be safe when I'm fearful, any direction that takes me away from what I'm scared of is a good direction. But when I'm looking at planning and visioning life, any direction other than the direction of my goals, of my purpose in life, is taking me in the wrong direction. So when I'm chasing safety, I might be running away from the direction I actually want to go. Okay. And when you're in worrying and anxious, part of your brain gets unplugged. Okay. And you limit your perspectives because you're looking only for the safest choice. Okay. Good decision making, on the other hand, needs flexibility, where you're looking at the problem, where you're looking at the solutions, and you're weighing up all the possible consequences, where you're planning and choosing a specific direction because that's where you want to go. Now, another challenge when you're worried is that you're probably not talking about your fears. It's more than asking the divine for help and guidance, because sometimes you need to talk to people. And maybe the question for the divine is, have the right people show up in your life. So when we're worried and we're overwhelmed, we respond in two quite opposing ways. We become fixated and we limit our options, or we overthink all of the possible options under the sun. We're so scattered that we're unable to focus. There's too many options and we get overwhelmed. And in both cases, it doesn't matter if we're too fixated and narrow or simply scattered and overwhelmed. We procrastinate. We run out of time, and then we pick the very first solution that comes to us because we want to escape the overwhelming feeling of I have to choose now. Okay? So where are you focused when times get hard? Are you focused on divine intention and making good decisions as guided by spirit? Are you focused on the present moment, here and now? And the purpose of doing this is to focus our attention and our energy where it needs to go. So worry might trick us into avoiding all that we don't want. Any direction is good. Whereas that good decision making, that divine choice that is creative, takes us in the direction we want to go. We have purpose and we turn towards that goal. So watch your heart with all diligence, for from your heart flows the spring of life. So when you're worried, you don't get caught up in all those things that are beyond your control. One of the helpful little things that I might do sometimes is I make two lists. I make a list of all the things that I'm worried about that I can control. And on that very same page in the second column, I do all the things I'm worried about that are beyond my control. And all those things that I'm worried about that are beyond my control, I take a moment to ignore and I focus on what I can control. So what are some of the things that you can control? Your attitude, whether or not I get organized, where I spend my time and energy and I put my focus, how I respond to the challenge that's in front of me. I can control that. I can control how I communicate with others and who I choose to communicate with. I can control whether or not I decide to ask for help. And so I can choose at that moment in time, no matter how worrying it is, to make a plan, to get specific about where I'm going, and put time and energy into what I can do and who I can talk to. Okay? One of the things I wanted to share with you today is something I call the God box. Everything that is in that other list, that second list of things that I cannot control, goes into my God box. Okay? Now I have one. It's hand painted and decorated and it sits on the shelf next to my desk. And all my worries get written on a little piece of paper and folded up and placed in the box, out of sight and out of mind. And at the end of this year, I'm going to take the God box that I have and I'm going to burn it. I'm not even going to go looking through what was in there. I'm just going to burn the box and everything in it and create and make a new box for the next year. Saying goodbye to all of those worries of things that were beyond my control so that I can take my energy and my time and my focus and hold an intention with faith of what I want to do. So as a child, my prayers were probably a bit more like asking Santa Claus for something for Christmas, wishing as well as in a way negotiating. As an adult, I believe that I have responsibility. I have accountability for the outcome. It's not that I don't believe in miracles, but I believe that being anxious for nothing is that in every situation, whatever that might be, I hold an intention with gratitude in my heart. And I make two lists, what I can do, what is beyond my control. And I only focus on that list of what is within my control. And this is what gives me that inner peace. Okay. It's more than helpless prayer. It's proactive prayer. I ask for what I want to come to pass, And then I take steps forward on that path, no matter how rocky or how steep that path may be. And there is a part of believing that you're receiving it, that single-mindedness without a shadow of the doubt, that it is for my highest good. It's the best possible outcome. And daring to pour all my time and energy into doing that, because it's more than just faith, it's aligned action. Now, they say if you want to walk on water, you got to get out of the boat. Okay. And obviously, that's an extreme example. But faith and believing is putting into action what you say. Okay. My biggest mistakes have been blind faith, where I've sat waiting for my prayers to be answered without any action at all. Now, Vicky gave me a great example of trusting and of faith. And it's you go to the restaurant and you make your order. You don't follow the waiter around to make sure that they put the order into the kitchen. You don't go into the kitchen and see what chefs are doing. You don't micromanage everything that's happening on your order. No, you sit at the table, you give your order to the waiter, and you proceed to enjoy the moment with your friends. And so there is the action of making the order. There's also going to be the action at the end of paying for it. But in that meantime, you're sitting back and letting someone else take care of all those steps that you're not watching. Okay? And so faith is stepping out, putting my plan into effect. Okay? It's believing that the divine does accompany me. Okay? And it's keeping the faith that what I've planted is going to grow. Okay. It shows up sometimes as patience of waiting for the results without getting anxious. It's confidence that the results are coming and resting in that. But at the same time, often it is taking steps of doing what is within my control. Okay. And so my time, my energy, my focus is on what I can do. And then everything else, all those aspects beyond the control, just letting go of, surrendering them, letting them be.